Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Console Corner. Today's top stories: Moji takes a Toot, Elevate makes a swap, Hojin returns, and Swiper takes a trip. Joining with me today is the long-time player of Paladins, Goochmob. Goochmob, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, sir.
Oh, too loud. Hello, Goochmob, you there?
Hello.
All right, perfect. For those of you who don't know who Goochmob is, he played on PS4 a while ago, it seems. About a year ago, he was in the Valencia Qualifiers with the team Mobtown on NA. He then went as a sub for Invigorate Gaming to Valencia. Had a good showing there for himself. He then was on Invigorate, what we call Invigorate 2.0 or Invig 2.0. And then you swapped to PC. You were on a team which was in the HRX qualifiers at that qualifying LAN. What team was that again?
I played Underworld.
Underworld, that's what it was. Then you guys had a short stint with Onslaught before you moved into Royale and some other games as well. So how are you feeling today?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Let's take a look here. I want to talk first about the Swiper story. He takes a trip. By this we mean Swiper the One was eventually going to join Vexed. From what rumors were being told, he was trying out for Vexed. He played on the team that went up against Vexed in the finals of PCL Week 1, which was the team named My Dad Cuts My Hair. So if you're not familiar with that team right there, he played for My Dad Cuts My Hair, which was Swiper, Yui, Potent, Fanatics, Wildcard, which was Lightning Pig at one point. And then Yui was no longer on that team. They brought in someone else. They made it to the finals. They lost the finals to Vexed 2-1. And then Swiper was supposedly going to be joining Vexed. That is not going to happen now. And actually, Swiper is moving to the United States. He's moving to North America's region. He's moving to Chicago, to be more specific, and he's going to be living with his aunt. He does have family here, so he will be moving in with her, and he'll be playing on NA servers. And remember, he has a PS4 and an Xbox, so he can go on either console in the NA region. Supposedly, he's already in talks with joining a roster. I'm not sure which console, and I'm not sure which team even. So, Gooch, what are your thoughts about Swiper? You obviously know who Swiper is. You've played against him at Valencia. I'm sure you've played with him on some occasions, maybe in casuals or ranked or tens lobbies or whatever it may be. What's your initial thoughts of Swiper moving to North America?
I think Swiper is a very strong player. He was really good in the damage role. He was able to flex really well. I think he's gonna make a strong impact in the NA scene.
Okay, and you're not very familiar with the teams right now, but if you had to guess, where do you think he would end up, on PS4 or Xbox in the NA region?
I mean, what I see in the Xbox team, they never really change anyone around. So probably in the PS4 scene.
Okay.
Probably like Wish's team or something. I don't know, one of those teams.
Okay, so the top teams in PS4 NA right now, one of them, or the top team, is Elevate. And that's Whoosh, Shoo, Emmett Payne, who came over from Xbox recently, GR Crazy, who came over from Xbox recently. They also have Ludex as their coach. He came over from Xbox recently. And then they have Sir James Parker as well, who came over from Xbox and went to the Summer Finals LAN and played for this PS4 team. So you could potentially see Swiper going to Elevate. I can even see him going to an Xbox team, maybe not Onslaught, but another top 3 team amongst those rosters there. It would be interesting to see, maybe he'll even make his own team. I mean, I'm not very familiar with Swiper's knowledge of NA players other than those that he's met at LAN. Or those that he consistently plays with on a casual base. But it'll be interesting to see Swiper in the NA region, and I hope that America welcomes him. I like the kit. personally. So I hope that he has a fun and great time here in America. So moving on to the next thing is Moji takes a Toot, and by this I mean Moji's Toot is getting nerfed. And what I wanted to talk to you about, Gooch, is you play on PC for so long now, and much longer, and in a deeper pro competitive setting than I have on PC. I mean, I haven't done anything competitively on PC, but you know, Moji is not very strong on PC. Still a first pick, first ban on console up until, well, this new patch, where you know Moji's Toot legendary or talent card, whatever it may be, gives you that 6 seconds. It lasts, gives you a big heal, gives you 30% movement speed, which is initially nimble 3. So Moji was a big factor here on console, but not on PC, which, you know, you said to me before the show started, you like that the patches and the buffs and the balancing is now being, you know, there's some console related balances coming out because Moji is not big on PC, but she's huge on console. So why is Moji not as big on PC before this nerf?
Just with like a mouse, it's usually if you don't have any kind of like either high mobility or good survivability, which she kind of had both, but they weren't huge enough to escape easy headshots, easy like team focus, which most like good teams have on PC. So Moji kind of she'll do a lot of damage and then just get insta-killed like right as you hit the corner. So that kind of didn't matter.
Okay, so the sustainability of the character was its biggest problem. A lot of people told me that Moji's hitbox was huge, so a lot of PC people were able to melt her quickly because, you know, the aiming is much more complex and better than it is on console. You know, so after this happened, a lot of the supports got buffed as well. We know Grohk can now fly. Which will be interesting to see in a competitive setting. Grohks on like Splitstone and Serpent Beach taking high ground because they can just you know, trampoline themselves up there now in their ult. But could we possibly expect a triple tank double support comp coming? Or triple support, double support? I mean, what kind of metas are we looking at here potentially?
Probably double support. I mean, Lightning Staff also heals. Grover got buffed. I think Furia got nerfed though, which she was in like a really strong. Wow, she did get nerfed. She was in a really strong state though. I can still see double support though. Most of the supports in Paladins do nuts damage, so.
Yeah, I mean, Genos, Furia, not only do they supply the healing aspect, but they also supply a good amount of damage. I mean, Furia has 2 ways to heal. She can put out a lot of damage herself. Same with Genos. He can heal you and he can heal 3 people, give them damage buffs, and then do damage as well with himself. They both have really good CC abilities as well with the Void Grip and the stun.
Pip also heals now with his shots. Combat Medic makes his potion shots heal. Okay, so we can see like a little Ana kind of play in him there. That's interesting since it's blast shots. You know, it's an AOE damage. So it's interesting to see those heals go into effect. I'm really looking forward to how the meta is going to change. I mean, currently the meta was kind of boring to me. You know, back way long time ago, the meta used to change often. With every patch, and I feel like with the last 2 patches, the meta, it's been tweaked, but it hasn't really changed a ton. Which it shouldn't change like extremely each patch, but like over like at least 2 months, if the meta is getting like like super stale, like double tank, boring comps, you got to change something because it has to be good for the viewers and the players. So you got to like balance it around that. Okay, let's talk about one more champion who's getting a balance change here. What do you think about Maeve's Street Justice getting the 35% on Pounce now? I mean, she was already strong. 35% health?
Yes, 35% health. I mean, basically it comes to what? 2 daggers and a Pounce to most champions in the game right now. I mean, she was really strong. when she got her buff. The damage reduction in her got nerfed, which kind of balanced her out. But I feel like adding this new buff is kind of throwing her off balance again.
What are they doing? Why would they do this? Like, that's so much health.
Well, it executes 35% of the missing health.
Wait, it says now executes at 35% health, though. So wouldn't that mean once you hit 35% threshold, you pounce and they insta-die?
I would assume so. I don't know. That's something we got to look into and then ask more questions and try to get more defined wording of it. So let's move on here. Do you remember Hojin?
Yes, I do.
So Hojin reportedly was going to be coming back to play for the Nan Handlers. And if you don't know who the Nan Handlers are, Gooch, I know you don't follow console as closely, but I can tell you who's on the Nan Handlers, and you'll know. I'm pretty sure you'll know everybody on this roster. Starting off, you have Slurpee. That's General in Chief. So he had a name swap there. General in Chief.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
So he now goes as Slurpee. Then you also have Author the God.
I remember him.
IQ-Z, which is Dez.
Oh, they both came back.
You have Roman Rulers. Vengeance from the Coma team. And then they picked up Jordan, the support who came over from Xbox. He played for Heating Up, and then he played for the Onslaught team that qualified on PS4 NA in the spring finals with Comedy, Richie, Atomic Boom, and Neil was the sub for Jordan at that LAN. So Jordan was picked up by them, but from reports that I've seen on Twitter as recently as this morning, Jordan is taking time off of the game to focus on his last year of school. So that could be a big blow to them. But they're trying to bring in Hojin to put him in as that tank. And then apparently Hojin has now left the game again. So he's not returning. And that report just came in with us right now. So I guess Slurpee's going to remain as their frontline player. But the question I have about this lineup now, okay, they had Roman Rulers and Dez as their flex positions. And they both would have to swap on and off of supports. They bring in Jordan. And that was a great move. They moved Vengeance from the DPS role to the sub position. So he's their sub. They moved Jordan into the support position, which relieves pressure off of Roman and Dez, considering they don't play the supports as well as Jordan can. But now that Jordan is gone again, I mean, how does this change the roster again? They're going to have to go back to Roman and Dez being the support flex between the two of them. I mean, are they stronger with or without Jordan, or with or without Hojin? How do you see this roster panning out here?
If they have the both swap between supports, that kind of makes him weaker in a sense, just because they don't have a dedicated support. They don't have they need people in like more dedicated roles. Support's kind of like that guy that you need consistently to just do his job, and it's kind of hard when you have someone swapping in and out. I tried to do that on a team before, and it's harder to pull that off than just having like a dedicated support, dedicated main tank.
Exactly. We've never seen this before. Yeah. We've seen people swap roles on teams, but then they permanently stay in that role that they've swapped to. You know, we've seen your flex player can play some of the supports when you run double support. Some of the other players on the team can flex between DPS and front lines, but you never really have. But you always really have that one person that is always your main support player. And with this roster here, it doesn't look like they're going to have a main support player.
It doesn't make any sense to me. That's kind of like, I don't know why if they can both play, they might as well tell one, yo, I'm just going to learn these supports. Especially with this new update, it seems like they made a lot of the supports easy. I mean, you could just heal by shooting people now with Grohk and Pip. I mean, they kind of took like the skill out of it and just just gave it to you. Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to see how the Nan handlers do. They finished pretty well in the first week of qualifiers. We'll go over the standings and points here in a little bit. Let's talk about the teams and the brackets from this past weekend here. So the 4 LAN teams, 3 of them took losses. So Flashpoint being the first one in PS4 EU. They lost to a team named YCTG. I don't know what that stands for, so don't ask. But there's a few things that I want to mention about this loss here. For one, Onii-B was not playing, so he had to go to work. So he had his real life job to deal with. So they put in what we thought would be their sub, but apparently he's going to be main roster, and his name is Harvey. So he came over from Xbox. He's now playing for Flashpoint because they needed someone after dropping Swiper. So they pick up Harvey. So maybe, there was a little chemistry problem. They haven't had enough time to practice with Harvey in the lineup. Another thing that was mentioned is that Goodlad's internet cut out, and he had problems with the internet throughout the entire bracket. And at one point, he was playing on mobile hotspot. Mm-hmm. So that could be a big thing there. But two of the other things is in the semifinals, Flashpoint goes up against who, we all thought for a month or two would be their biggest rival for the #1 spot, which would be FY Midnight Oligarchs, which is the Italian team headed up by Donka. They have Centurio. They just made a roster change as well, too. They put Alilo on the bench because they brought in Itik, who is one of the best DPSs in PS4 EU's region. They took him from Brutal Fissure, which at one point was iTech. They signed to Brutal Fissure. They took iTech from that lineup, put him into their lineup. So it just seemed as if they got stronger. But they lose to Flashpoint in the semifinals. So we thought, everyone thought, okay, Flashpoint's got an easy finals match. They're going to win. They're going to get the 100 points here after week 1. But it turns out that they lose 2-0 in a best of 3. And reportedly, this team, YCTG, was playing with 2 subs that same week as well. Let's see who they had. They had Patties, V-Clax, Ernest Degen, It's Tito, owned by Atomics, Nasty Pro, and It's Beanie. Now, owned by Atomics and Nasty Pro are their main roster. They were subbed out for Tito and Beanie. I mean, if you beat Flashpoint, do you take those subs out or do you keep them in? Gooch.
I feel like I'll keep them out.
You would keep them in the lineup, or you would take them out and put your original main rosters in?
I would take them out.
Even after beating Flashpoint with them? I mean, that's the biggest question that I think they should have as a team themselves.
It just kind of depends on who you work better with, to be honest. Just because
we don't. That's what I'm saying. As a spectator, as a spectator view, we don't know. We have some footage of their game here. We as the spectators can't tell if they're better with their main roster. But from what we've seen, they beat Flashpoint, who's been the #1 team in the region for months, maybe even a year at this point. So I mean, what are we supposed to expect? Do they put in do they keep the subs in there, or so you're saying that if they work better with their main roster to put them in and leave the subs out?
I mean, yeah, they might as well just leave the subs out. It's kind of it kind of sucks because it's
it sucks for the subs if they get taken out.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it was for Bugsy back in PC, when one of the first 2 LANs came out. He couldn't make it to the first HRX, and the sub went off. I think the sub was Creatives, I think. Which, I mean, Creatives is a nuts player, as you see now. He's on Navi, but
I think the sub at that time was unbelievable.
Oh, unbelievable! That's what it was. There you go.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yes, but I mean, do you keep Unbelievable? I mean, then okay, even Unbelievable got dropped off Navi. So, do you keep Unbelievable over Bugsy? No.
Well, they did at the time, though.
Well, they won. Yeah, but I don't know. It's kind of you got to look who's better, and I mean, only the team kind of knows who's better in that scenario.
Was it Unbelievable or was it Bonker? Because I think that it was Unbelievable, and some people are saying that it was Bonker.
Pretty sure it was Unbelievable. The first LAN that he couldn't make it to. Because Unbelievable used to play like Pip and like all these other DPSs before he had to switch to tank.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, okay, Bonker.
So they'll be playing in week 2. I hope to see their main roster. That way we, as the spectators, can, compare it and see how well that they can do with their main roster. But right now they look fairly strong with those 2 subs in their lineup. So, I mean, it just depends on what they're thinking and how they feel. I mean, when it all comes down to it, it's whatever they're comfortable with most. I mean, the 2 top teams they'll be going against and fighting for if they make it into the league is, of course, FY Midnight Oligarchs and Flashpoint. And, one other thing is Patties apparently is a super underrated DPS. They have 7 guys on this roster, and 5 of them are in the GM leaderboards. So, I mean, a lot of people tell me that leaderboards don't mean anything, ranked means nothing. But could this be, are these guys friends, or did they just, sign up together and decide to make a team based off of looking on the leaderboards and seeing everyone was a GM, and they're like, hey, let's make a team and see how far we can go?
I think that's like the only way you could even get it to go. Just look on leaderboards at this point. It's too late in the game to just know people. Unless you know the top 4 and you get lucky they needed someone. But
Nice. Okay, let's move on here. The next team we're going to talk about real shortly is actually Onslaught, the Xbox NA LAN team that actually won the summer LAN. I feel they got out-drafted. A lot of reports are coming in that they did get out-drafted. Draft is, I would say 70% of the game at this point. And Furia and Leanne were not in this week 1 qualifying tournament. They were still vaulted at the time. And a lot of people were worried that Vampire Lord wouldn't be able to compete against Onslaught. And I feel that Vampire Lord actually got the gauntlet out of all 4 brackets this weekend. I feel like they got the hardest of the brackets. If we take a look here, first of all, Gooch, when I first saw this team, okay, their team name is XX Vampire Lord 64. All right, and the podcast, which will be uploaded tomorrow for everyone who wants to check that out. Don't forget the first episode of the podcast is on my YouTube channel. It's exclamation point YT in chat. So, Vampire Lord, actually, the meaning behind this name is they're memeing the #1 Loki on the Xbox Smite leaderboards. So, they couldn't think of a name or something, so they just used that. Apparently, he's the best Loki one trick.
there you go.
So here's their tournament bracket here. They had to go through the top 4 teams in Xbox NA, or arguably the top 4 teams. They had to face the One Tricks to start off with. They won. Then they went on to face Press Y, which is arguably, without a doubt, the #2 team in Xbox NA right now, or was at the time. And they beat them. Then they go up against Curse These Hands, which is Kev Falcon, Kowalix, and GC2MT, and most people will know them as Farmer GC and his animal friends, or that long name they had, Farmer GC. But they went up against that team, another top 4 team, and then they go up against Onslaught in the finals, and they beat them 2-1. It seems they outdrafted them there, and everyone's like, when I first saw that team in the bracket, when the brackets were put up, when they were first made, I was like, Vampire Lord, oh God, what's this team? Full of some rejects who don't know how to fill out the check-in form for their team name and just put one of their players' names as their team name. It turns out this roster is made up of high-level players that have been veterans. You've got OG Comedy. I know we've talked a lot about where he's going to end up. OG Comedy ends up back on the Xbox with Vampire Lord. You have Styles. Right there, you have 3 LAN appearances between those 2 players. OG Comedy finished 2nd at HRX with Blight. He finished 4th at the Spring Finals with Onslaught. And then you have Styles, who was on the winning team at HRX for Elevate on the Xbox side of things at that time. And then you have some other veteran players, Richie, who was on that Onslaught team with Comedy at Spring, and he's a great DPS, arguably one of the best in the game. And then you have Kenichi, which is a top DPS already, young and raw potential talent that Styles actually found while playing competitive in the game, duoed with him, got to know him a little bit, gave him a tryout, and it turns out that he's really, really good. So they implemented him into the lineup. And then they have Hilltime, who's another great flex player. He can play the front lines. He can play the damages. Most notably is Eevee, is arguably the best Eevee on console. So they've got a very experienced and veteran lineup here. So it was surprising to see that Vampire Lord was actually a team of utmost talent, and they actually went up against Onslaught, beat them 2-1. They outdrafted Onslaught, who behind Miracle's big brain has one of the biggest the best draft mentalities there is out there. And I feel like Onslaught maybe was a little worried too much about Elevate. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they're just preparing for Elevate at the next LAN. Maybe they're not focused as much as they should be on their region. I mean, what are your thoughts on Vampire Lord being put together in such short notice with such veteran play and being able to take out the defending LAN champions who went 12-0 in the qualifiers and then went 7-2 in the double round elimination tournament at LAN?
I think that's actually pretty nuts. I mean, like, yeah, they have LAN experience, but being able to put a roster together just right before the tournament and take out the big dog right away, just, I don't know. It's like, even in PC, like, it's not really like possible. PGS is won by the top team no matter what. Nobody could take out Tox. Like, it was just like, no matter how good your roster was, people kept reforming rosters over and over. They couldn't take out the big dog. Be able to take them out like first week is actually pretty nuts.
Okay, so it's a big feat in itself, is what you're saying.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to PS4 NA, where Elevate is the dominating team, but they actually lost to a few guys that were on their old roster. So after the summer LAN, Elevate came in second behind Onslaught. They then bring over some Xbox players that they feel more comfortable with playing together. They have more chemistry with them. They've known them for a while, and it's understandable. So they release. This is the list of players they release: Atomic Boom. You are very familiar with him. They release QT Neil, which you know as Neil Bongstrong.
Yep.
They've released Tommy Jet. I'm sure you're aware of who that is.
Yes.
And they released Sorrow. Now, Sorrow was their coach / sub at the LAN, and they released him. You're familiar with Sorrow. Mm-hmm. And those four guys then bring in E-Knives, or the other Shutter, who was actually on a team with you back in the day.
Yeah, he was. For a while.
And they bring him in, and they claim themselves as a pickup team, and they call themselves the Onii-Channers, and they beat Elevate in the finals. I don't really watch anime, so I don't really get the joke about the Onii-Channers, but apparently everyone just chuckles when they hear it, or they say that's such a great name. So if anyone could explain that to me, that would be great.
Onii-Chan is brother, but a little girl says it all the time.
Oh.
And it's just, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for telling me. I don't watch anime, so I'm very unfamiliar with that territory. But they beat Elevate. Now, here's the thing. Here's a couple things that like pop out in my mind. This team tells me, the Onii-Channers tell me that they're a pickup team. Here's my problem with that. Sorrow, Tommy, and Neil have played together on the Runaways and the Flying DualShocks. Boom, Neil, Tommy have played together on Elevate. Sorrow traveled with Elevate. So I just feel like this is more than a pickup team. These guys, I mean, E-Knives and Boom have been on teams together in the past as well. Exactly. They were on your team together. They were on another team after you went to PC. So I just feel like this is more than a pickup team. This is a team full of 5 guys that have been playing together on different occasions in different teams so much that they have just developed this just automatic, like, muscle memory chemistry together. And if they continue to work with it, I think that they can possibly contest Elevate to bring an entire PS4 and an original PS4 players team to LAN.
I think that's only happened for PS4 EU, right? Or did PS4 EU even have Xbox players?
They do have some Xbox players that transferred over. Some of them have gone back. Some PS4 players have gone to Xbox. But we were talking, and I've said this numerous times. PS4 NA has never had an original full rostered PS4 team at LAN. At Valencia, you and Shutter 750 came in as subs. So right there, you have subs. HRX was Blight at the time. All 6 of those guys on that roster were Xbox transfers. They had just came over. Onslaught at Spring LAN had Richie and Comedy, who are Xbox guys. Elevate at Summer LAN had Xbox guys. Even if you don't count Shoo and Whoosh because they've been here for so long now, they still had SJP come over, who was also a sub for Tommy at the time. So you can judge PS4 NA's skill by saying that they've never made a LAN, but at the same time, you can't judge how they would perform at a LAN because they've never really had an all PS4 team there without Xbox players or subs. Another thing that I wanted to point out about Elevate losing is this could be a large part of them losing to Onii-Channers is that they brought over GR Crazy. They brought over Ludex. They brought over Emmett Payne. And now Emmett Payne has been reportedly spoken about as the best player on console, as if he's better than Wonderful, Swiper, SJP, all the names that are usually brought up in that conversation. He is, even Harvey. So he's arguably better than all of these players. Even World is thrown in there. World Edit, as you would know him from Gangstars, now they're Vexed. But I think a big part of them losing is the lack of cards. It's the same thing that happened with Blight early on in the qualifiers for the HRX. They didn't have all the cards unlocked. They didn't have all the cards they needed for their loadouts, all the talent legendaries. And Alyssa and Molly have a ton of things going on, so they can't really respond to DMs or emails about giving them access to all the cards, giving them some gold, giving them some crystals, things like that. So is a lack of cards a big thing when it comes to them transferring over and losing in the first week of a qualifier?
That could be a big factor. They're missing a lot of things that can make them have that competitive edge. So they're kind of playing with, they're playing handicap. They're playing, they can't play the most meta decks. So.
Exactly. Especially when it comes to your support champs. If they don't have a certain card, it can affect the entire team, essentially. So it'll be interesting to see how much they grind and what kind of thing they can bring back. Another big thing about them is they switched. Shoo, as you would know, is a support main. He switched to DPS after spring finals, I think it was, and he made it to LAN as a DPS flex player. And then they brought over GR Crazy on support. Now we saw him play the DPS role at HRX. That's the only thing I've seen him play. That's all I know GR Crazy as. But he comes over as a support. People are telling me that he's the nuttiest support on console. He's the best support on console. He's going to wow me. He's going to just blow everyone out of the water when it comes to supports. But they lose week 1 of PCL qualifiers. And now he is moved back to DPS and Shoo is back on supports, which actually I think works better for Elevate because now all the support champions are getting these big buffs and these balance changes. And Shoo, just Grohk can fly. And now Shoo literally has no limits as he is the best Grohk in the world on console. Not only is he the best Grohk, but now he's going to be the best Grohk all over the map. So that'll be interesting.
With his weapon.
He can heal with his weapon, fly. It'll be interesting to see Elevate in this new meta after this role swap. Let's move on to Vexed. Vexed is the only one of the 4 teams that went to the last LAN that actually won their bracket. They beat my dad cuts my hair. They have potentially we're going to have a new roster. They've added Yui. Okay. Reports were that they were going to drop Lexi. Now, Lexi was their support player. Before Summerland, they moved him to the flex, and then they moved him to the front line. They moved Narc to their support role. They brought in Slopodopoulos as their flex, and they brought Luke Is Too Good as their sub. Luke Is Too Good is no longer on the team. He joined another roster to be main roster. He's a support. So they lose their sub. They bring in Yui to be their sub, and reports where they're going to drop Lexi and bring in Swiper. But that's no longer the case now. Swiper's moving across the pond, and Lexi is now going to be moved back to their support role. Narc is going to be moved back to their frontline role. World and Welsh Mania are still their damages, and now they have Slopodopoulos as their flex with Yui as their sub. How do you feel about this new lineup?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one. I mean, I've been watching like the VODs of like Vexed and everybody at the Summerland, and Welsh seemed pretty strong.
I mean, arguably Welsh is one of the best flank players in the world. And speaking of world edit, as he was previously known, is probably arguably the best blaster on console. And that is very good damage duo there. They work well together, especially in their comms. At HRX, at Spring LAN, we saw them run a Mave and a Sky. It works so well together because they go into casuals. They don't care about winning the casual. They just want to work on target focus, target prioritization, call-outs, things like that with the Street Justice and the Debilitate legendaries in their pockets. But they've gone through so many players. They've gone through so many players on their roster before, especially when it comes to that sub position. They've gone through. They've had Blokely, Kizza, Slop, Luke, Eights, T-Trank. Now they have Yui. But I feel that Vexed is such a strong team they're the strong team for one fact, and that's because of their core of the team. And the core of the team is Narc, World, and Welsh. Those guys have been on the team since the very beginning, dating all the way back to Valencia qualifiers. Those are the three most consistent people on that roster at all times. Not one of them has been dropped from our public spectator knowledge. Not one of them has left the team. So Narc, World, and Welsh, I think that they've developed a chemistry together. They've developed a bond. They're the core of that team. Similar to how the Onii-Channers have played together so much that they've just have this muscle memory of this chemistry that they've bonded together. And the only problem that I see with Vexed throughout all of their qualifiers is that they've only lost one tournament, and that was to Revolt. That team's no longer together. But the thing is that they have no team to prepare for on a regular basis. Like Elevate will prepare for Onii-Channers. Elevate will prepare for maybe one other team on PS4 and A. Onslaught will prepare for Vampire Lord and Press Y. Flashpoint will prepare for Midnight Oligarchs and the team that just beat them, YCTG. But with Vexed, it's not that easy. They at one point, the second best team was Revolt. Then they disbanded. The roster broke up. Then the second best team was Godslayers, or maybe not in that order. Then it was Meatball. Then it was someone else. So, I mean, it's just the second place team is never consistent, even for more than a week or two. And that goes back to Xbox EU's problem with having teams not only sign up for the tournament, they have a lack of teams that sign up. They have a lack of interest in their scene, in their community, and they also have one of the biggest team swapping communities that there is. And we spoke about this on the podcast that will be up tomorrow. Is when I ask for rosters, okay, I put them in a spreadsheet. Xbox EU players literally switch teams faster than I can type out rosters that are given to me. So I mean, How can Vex prepare themselves if there's not really anyone to prepare for in their region?
It's hard. It makes it harder to train for LAN too.
It's kind of impossible when your whole region's kind of like, it's just not there. You kind of just walk. If you walk over all your competition, once you get to LAN, you just get stomped. Usually unless you're just like a nuts team. You prepare.
So Vexed actually scrims against Xbox NA teams a lot. Do you feel that helps them, or I mean, will that like? I don't know how to ask or explain or put what I'm trying to say in words. Okay, so EU and NA obviously have different metas between the two, especially on console. So if an EU team is consistently scrimming against NA teams, does that help the EU team, or will it transform them into the NA meta? Does it damage their own region's meta? How does
kind of hurt? It can kind of hurt them just because another team that could be good comes out of nowhere, uses the EU meta on them. They're not used to it. They forget what to ban, and then they could lose it just by accidentally practicing with NA too much, just because they think we don't need to practice against these guys. We'll always beat them. And then they'll whip out the old school EU meta on them, and they won't know what to do. They're just banning, whatever. Like if you ban Moji in NA, they don't in EU. All of a sudden they just let go an OP pick. Let's get ruffled.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we got a couple more things here before we actually end the show here. Let's talk a little bit about the power rankings, and then we'll move on to the standings going into week 2, and then we'll actually just end the show with the all-star rosters. So voting ended last night. So the first ballot was players in their respective roles on their console in their region, and the top 4 from each role in each region would be grouped together for console versus console, so Xbox versus PS4. And we actually have the rosters: 1 frontline, 1 damage, 2 flex, 1 support, and then 2 subs. And the subs were decided by everybody in the ballot, was grouped together, and whoever got the most votes was a sub. But if they were leading the votes in their respective role, then they can't be a sub. Obviously, you can't be 2 people at once. And we'll talk a little bit about that first. Let's head over to the power rankings here. So initially on PS4, the top 8 right now are Onii-Channers, obviously. Elevate, I feel is the strongest team on console, ahead of Flashpoint, but they were beaten by the Onii-Channers, who have those LAN experience, who has the qualifying experience, who has the experience overall. So I believe Onii-Channers are number 1 right now in the PS4 side of things. I feel like Elevate is number 2 right behind them. I feel like they could possibly be number 1 after this next week. It just depends on how much they grind and how much effort they put into getting those cards. If it was a lack of cards, they also have the team chemistry to deal with. 3 of them have just come over from Xbox, so they have to get used to the PS4 type of meta and play themselves. YCTG is number 3. I don't feel this team is stronger than Elevate or the Onii-Channers, but they did beat Flashpoint, so I have to give them their respect there. Flashpoint's the next team there at number 4, and Flashpoint is still a strong team, great team. They just need to work out some kinks. They just added Harvey into the roster. Good Lad had some internet problems as well. Maybe they're still a little lurky and a little, a little jet lagged after coming home from the United States all the way back to Europe. FY Midnight Oligarchs right behind them. I feel that they are still a top team, especially in the EU region. I feel like the best of 1 system really messed them up. You only have 1 chance. And Gooch, we're talking, if you get disconnected 1 time, if you have 1 misplay, if you buy the wrong item once, it could cost you your bracket. So that's a big thing there. Despacito 2 is actually a pickup team that made it to the semifinals, and they're an NA team that consists of Topo Justice, which is the great ball sack. Obviously, he can't use that name on stream, so he uses different accounts. Roadhog Hooks, Mario Areola, Victoria, and the Danilo 1999. Now, the Danilo, I think, is the best player on that team, with Roadhogs right behind him. Victoria is a strong support. She plays with a lot of these guys on a casual basis, so she's developed some chemistry with them. The Nan Handlers, I think, are a strong team, especially when Jordan was in their lineup. But it'll be interesting to see where they move in the standings, let alone the power rankings, without Jordan in that lineup if he does not play and if he indeed did leave. Cryonatic is the 8th team in the power rankings for PS4. They made it to the semifinals. The problem I have with Cryonatic is that they were DQ'd. So a big debacle happened where they were told to play the team in the quarterfinals. So they played that game, and while they were in that game, they weren't able to respond to a Discord message from an admin. So they got DQ'd for the semifinals because they were supposed to play the semifinals, but there was miscommunication on both ends there. So they were DQ'd. I wonder if they actually gained their points for coming in 4th. So I'd have to look into that and see where they are in the standings. From Xbox, it's real simple. Vexed, only one of the teams that won their LAN. Vampire Lord is number 2. They could be higher for beating the defending champs, Onslaught, but I feel that Vampire Lord is below Vexed right now, as Vexed had a tough matchup, but Vex, I feel, is still the strongest team in the region. Vampire Lord right behind them. My Dad Cuts My Hair, I feel, is stronger than Onslaught at the moment, but that could change considering Swiper is moving across the sea to another country, and the rest of that roster probably broke up or added someone who's maybe stronger than Swiper or not as strong as Swiper. So it'll be interesting to see where My Dad Cuts My Hair. Onslaught at number 4, I feel like they're a little lackadaisical right now. They're focused too much on going to LAN to face Elevate. Maybe even Vexed. I think they need to, just take a chill pill and focus on getting into the league with those other top 4 teams: Vampire, the One Tricks, Curse These Hands, Press Y, and even Need Healing in the Xbox team. Just the Xbox team, sorry, that showed up big that week. Curse These Hands, number 5. They're a really strong team. They were before known as Farmer GC. They have a really good lineup. A lot of chemistry between those guys. They've been playing with each other for a while. OTP, I feel like OTP is a really good team. I feel like they have the best tank duo, and I've said that numerous times with Nijo and Ninja Zen in the EU region. Xbox team, fairly new team and new roster there. We can go ahead and look at that roster real quick. The Xbox team is actually OCFB, G-Pan, Velocity, Too Damn Savage, Too Damn Sneaky, and sort of Avalwall. Now, those last 3, I haven't really seen them play at all, if maybe even a little. Now, OCFB, I know he's a really good support, and G-Pan really impressed me with his Drogo's play on Fish Market a couple months ago when he was in the finals for a PCS stream. So that was very impressive to see Xbox team make that lineup and make it. Need Healing, I think they're a really good lineup as well in the EU region. That's actually Bizjop, Slaya, Smutney above them, and Tylo. Now, Gooch, I know you know who Smutney is. He played support on PC. He moved to PS4 and played for Burrito with Legacy, and he was a frontline main on PS4. And then he went back and played for Cryptic at the Springland on PC as a support main, and now he is back again on console, this time on Xbox, playing on their team, and reportedly they are picking up Kings, which could be a big plus to their roster there, as he's one of the best DPSs there is in the EU region. But is any of these teams look surprising to you, Gooch? Any of these teams belong higher or lower, or what do you think about these overall power rankings here?
I'm surprised that Smutton even came back, because he was telling me he didn't even want to play PC Paladin. Like, he didn't want to play. Like, he told me
he didn't want to play Paladins at all, you're saying?
Last about. So I'm surprised he came back. I'm surprised.
You cut off there for a second. You cut off.
Okay. I said I was surprised that Smutty even came back to Paladins, because the last time I talked to him, it didn't seem like he wanted to play it. But I'm happy he got a better team on console, and I'm surprised he went back to Xbox. I remember he came back to PS4. He came to PS4 because he wanted competition.
Interesting. And now he's going to Xbox for the competition.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how well he does in the support role on console. We know he's a great player in game sense wise, mechanically too, on console, but we haven't really seen him in a while, so it'll be interesting to see that. Let's talk about our standings so far. So Vex Gaming, YCTG, Onii-Channers, and Vampire Lord all lead their respective regions with 100 points. is there anybody you think that could make a big jump? I know I'm looking forward to Thomas and Friends. Tacticals, I think, have 0 points because they were DQ'd. Thomas and Friends would essentially have 10 points, but they did come in 9th place. So, if they don't get the 10 points because of that DQ and move up, then they would essentially have 5 points. Now, keep in mind, this is open bracket. More teams can show up than just these in week 2. After week 2, the top 8 teams will move to week 3. So at this point, you just need to be in that top 8. Is there anybody you think can jump to that top 8 who's not there already, or is there anybody that you think will fall?
I think at least looking for like the region where there's more teams, probably like Brutal Fisher. I think 9th.
Yeah, Brutal Fisher in the PS4 EU region had a very difficult time there. They finished 8th.
Okay.
They finished 8th. Now, they lost one of their best players, Itik, who went to the Midnight Oligarchs. So they had to pick up another player. I think they picked up Atomic AMK. He's a really good blaster, especially on BK. But he's new to the lineup. They still have Culture Scred and Sir Benji, so that's that veteran leadership that they're going to have to use there. It'll be interesting to see where they are. Now, again, Cryonatic in the PS4 4th place there. I'm not sure if they get their 25 points because of that whole semifinal and quarterfinal disqualification miscommunication thing. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys pan out. But all we have left here to announce is the All-Star rosters. In blue is the PS4 roster, and in green is the Xbox roster. Here they are. You can see Wonderful from Onslaught on Xbox NA was the overall leader with a total of 67% of all votes. And he was in the flex position. So, and you can vote for 2 flex players each. So, I mean, if you could only vote for one, he possibly could have had a higher percentage there as well. So, your PS4 lineup would be Whoosh, Prosper, Storm, Shoo, SJP, and your subs would be the Legacy and Atomic Boom. For Xbox, you would have Trensic, Skeppy, Miracle, Wonderful, Emmett Payne, Cool Matt, and World. It's interesting that Onslaught just dominated. I mean, they have all 5 of their starters in there, 4 of them being starters in the roster for the All-Stars. And there's 14 people that made the All-Star rosters, and only one of them did not go to a LAN at all, if not just Summer LAN. And that's Emmett Payne. I mean, the rest of the 13 guys have been to LANs. All 13 were at the last LAN, but Emmett Payne is the only guy that has not been to a LAN yet, and it was interesting to see him make the starting lineup, let alone the All-Star roster at all. So, yeah, there it is. I mean, any questions or comments, you guys can just let me know on Twitter or in the chat. I mean, that's all I have for the show today. I mean, thank you for coming on the show, Gooch. It was awesome. The power rankings video is on YouTube. You can do exclamation point YT for that, or exclamation point PR if you just want to go straight to the power rankings video. Last week's episode of Console Corner is on there as well. Today's episode will be on there later tonight. We're going to have power rankings video going out later this week after week 2 of PCL Qualifiers is played both Saturday and Sunday of this week. I will be in Canada, so I will only be available on the internet if there is internet in the cabin that I'm going to. But I will be back Sunday night, and I will do the power rankings video Sunday night, Monday morning. Yeah. The podcast also, week 2 podcast episode will be on YouTube as well tomorrow morning. So look forward to that. We talk, this week's podcast is all about Xbox, NA Xbox and EU Xbox. And we have special guest Styles from the NA region and Fluxy, or Revolt Kings from the EU side of things. We talk about Xbox, teams, we talk about rosters, we talk about players, both old and new, people that have left the game, people that want to come back to the game. We talk about what we can do as a community to grow the Xbox region, especially that EU region with the lack of teams that they've had in the past, and how we as content creators and players can help people be interested in the game. I know I was very upset that the main menu of Gooch, you remember during Valencia, there was like an advertisement for Console Wars on the main menu of the game, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there isn't one anymore. And I emailed a couple high-res people, voicing my concerns about that like, hey, my name's Blue Ball. I'm trying to grow this community the best I can with the content creation that I have started. But it's that main menu advertisement is how I actually got involved in the esports side of Paladins on console. So they emailed me back and said, this was a mistake that we passed up. We're so sorry about it. We're actually going to add this in the game again. Now, at this point, it may be a little too late as this is the last week for open brackets, but I still feel that them responding to me, them apologizing to me, and them wanting to make the change was very, very high tier of them. I think that was awesome. So that's all I have for the show today. If there's anything you'd like to say, Gooch, that's the end of the show.
No, I don't have anything to say.
All right. Well, thanks again for being on the show. We look forward to seeing you in those Realm Royale tournaments. I know you've done a couple of the $1,000 ones. I hope to see you in a $100,000 one here soon. So make sure you guys check out Goochmob. Goochmob, what's your Twitch again? It's twitch.tv/
Real Goochmob.
Real Goochmob. There you go. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks for watching the show. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.